What's going on, good people? Kieron here.
Hi, everybody. It's your girl, Rachel, aka Ray P. Welcome back to another episode of the Culture Garden podcast.
Hey, man, hold on. Time out. Who the fuck is Rachel with that voice, y'all? Somebody tell me.
Okay.
Somebody tell me.
Funny. So I'm hotel if you're watching. I am traveling and I was on site today, and the usual culprit who interrupts my day called me, but because I was because I was in the office with somebody else who I was assessing, I had on my work voice, and he FaceTimed me like, yo, what the fuck? He's like, I thought you got kidnapped. I thought you left your phone somewhere.
Holding a sign that says, please help. I don't know. It's probably just me because I know you, Rachel. I don't know how many people are actually pick up on how many different names a certain individual has just been caught, because you slide it in so casually that if you don't know, you don't even know what you're talking about. But every single time I pick up on them, like my favorite to this day is Wrong Daddy. I forget what episode you use that on, but I love your descriptions. I just love them. That's a timeless, that's a classic. Obviously y'all will never know what we're talking about, but
what a mess.
It's hilarious, man. But Rachel and myself got to see each other in real life.
Yes. Evidence was on social media.
Evidence was on social media, but we didn't spend our time on social media. We spent it in each other's presence.
For sure.
Had an incredible time. When I tell y'all, the most random, wild, silly. Rachel, come to find out, did you know it was a super moon that night? It was a super moon. It had to be something. I can't even explain to y'all the dumb shit that was happening that entire course of the evening. I've tried and I failed to explain to like what was going on. You just had to be there, and sometimes those are the best moments. So you just had to be there. You had to witness. Everywhere we went was goofy shit.
It was silly shit. We went on the adventure.
That adventure was
people
climbing fences, trying to climb underneath the fences, trying to do some Mission Impossible shit, like out there in the middle of the night. Random people in the forest, uninhibited forest.
Crackheads.
Y'all probably listen.
Going on.
Y'all probably listening and like, what are they talking about? Trust me, it was one of them nights.
It was totally one of those nights.
It was one of them nights.
Never underestimate the power of a lame exposing themselves, or outlaming his or herself. Always be kind to people. You never know the difference you make in their lives. They will remember you.
Even if you don't remember them.
Even if you have no idea who they are. If you've never seen them a day in your life, they will have documentation of your at some point.
Hey. Rachel, that was a real life version of this you?
No, for real. For real.
Just gonna leave it there.
Just gonna leave it there. But I'm so glad you come see about me. I'm so glad you came to see about me while I was up in Northeast Ohio.
You know, anytime you are, if I have access, I'm going to come see about Ray P every single time. Had a great time. We had some stories. These are going to be stories we tell each other and laugh about 15, 20 years from now.
For sure.
So it was a great time. Who would have thought in these Akron streets?
In these Akron streets. I tried to get him on the brunch. He passed out. But
it was slow. That Sunday was slow. It was slow. It was real slow, man. And by the time I was up and moving, Rachel was on the road to Toledo. On the road to Toledo, man. Shout out to a good time and other people that were involved. Just, man, ain't nothing like being around people you really fuck with and love. It's really nothing like it, especially when it's not something that's common, and just being able to be there and be in each other's presence. It was an incredible time.
For sure.
Glad we got to participate in that, and obviously it's a reminder to do it more times than not. So we'll definitely be planning all that. But thank you, as all of you are here. We welcome you back to another episode of the Culture Garden Podcast, as Rachel said. Shout out to Childish Grownups, man.
What's the Childish Grownups?
Really excited about them. Really excited about that podcast. I know I mentioned it before, but they are, by the time you hear this, episode 4 will have dropped. Technically episode 5, their 4th movie plus the intro. But they've done The Lion King, they've done Toy Story, which is one of my favorite Disney movies. They've done an extremely goofy movie. And then they have another episode, which I'm not sure. Like I said, you'll hear it by now, but check our page. We post some links and things like that. But Maurice, Ash, Mia, shout out to y'all, man. Keep it going. In light of our, and I'll say this because me and Maurice were talking about it, in light of our 100th episode, which was our last episode, Maurice, when I mentioned that stat about like the 6.1% make it to 100 episodes, that kind of like inspired him. And it was one of those things like, man, I really want to do that with Childish Grownups. And obviously they have more than enough talent to go ahead and get that done, as well as just the willpower and the perseverance to keep going. So I'm rooting for them. I think that they're going to go on to do big things. So shout out to them. And shout out to y'all again for episode 100. Rachel, of course, you. School, episode 100, man. Got 100 of them things down. 100 of them things down, man. I said it. Yeah. I said it before, man. This space is it's a week to week. It can be tricky. There's weeks when I feel like I can do this for another 5 years. There's weeks I say I got 5 more episodes, and that's it. So it's a tricky space to operate, but I would not be doing this with anyone else other than this beautiful young lady right here, Ray P, as well as School and everybody else that we get a chance to rock with.
I mean, I love you.
No, man, I love you too.
School, everybody. I'm for real, really, really super, truly grateful for everybody's warm reception, continued support. I love y'all.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
In the words of Queen Latifah, y'all my niggas.
Y'all my niggas. If you know, you know. Shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. With that being said, please remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Word of mouth is the biggest way to help this platform grow. So if you know anyone who loves movies, please tell them to tap in. I think that, just to toot our horn a little bit, I think the way we analyze things and the way we have discussions and conversations and tie them into our real life and can still be funny and inquisitive and a whole bunch of other words that Rachel normally uses in her day-to-day life. I really think we do a really good job if you just love movies and just spreading that love. And obviously we've gotten that compliment from you a lot of times. So please be sure to tell a friend. We're on YouTube. The link tree is in the Instagram page description, everything else. There will be spoilers and explicit content. And today's film is School Daze. Now, I think this is very, very important. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to make sure I put a disclaimer out there.
For sure.
It's very important to remind people that Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated are non-hazing organizations.
Yes.
Any discussion brought up by Rachel or myself about any acts that may or may not have taken place are completely hypothetical. We're just speaking in the sense of, hey, if we were in this situation, maybe this is how we would view things, or there might be some recollections that maybe seem like we're talking from firsthand experience, but it's all hypothetical. We're very creative here.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole, absolutely, man. Just what we think the term pledging, if people were to partake in that, what we think that might look like and might feel like in the mental state of people. I just want to make sure we say that for the record. Anything else is not true.
For sure.
Non-hazing. All right. So I want to say that and get that out the way. Synopsis of this film. A not so popular young man wants to pledge to a popular fraternity at his historically Black college. The film is so much more than that, but that is the official synopsis. You would consider this a musical dramedy. And we'll get into the actual film and just kind of its historical place, because I think that's an interesting conversation. But before we do, Rachel, this was your week to pick the film.
It was.
You picked School Daze. What made you go with this movie?
Four brothers.
Straight up.
So Kieron just so eloquently read the synopsis of the film, but if you recall, or if you listen to our Four Brothers, I made mention of lame niggas who, for whatever reason, whether it be through Greekdom or just relation to somebody cool or adoption, whatever, who are granted access to social society and then become abusive in their power, and in the intro outlame themselves despite thinking that they are cool. And that is what we see Half Pint do, unbeknownst to himself. This weekend it was also my the anniversary to my sorority of joining such an illustrious organization. So it just, the timing of it felt right. I was with a lot of my sorority sisters this weekend and fraternity brothers, i.e. Kieron and some others that I actually love. And yeah, that was why I picked School Daze. And I just love this movie.
Two things real quick about that. Shout out to Rachel. Listen, I'll use the term, one of my favorite group of initiates.
Okay.
Into Alpha Kappa Alpha is the group that Rachel came in with. Like, legit, shout out to them. Also, one of the, if not the best pro show I've ever seen.
For sure.
In my life. Sure. That's not even up for debate. If you went to the University of Toledo between fall 06, forget all that. If you were in the University of Toledo in fall 06, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you stayed before or after, give or take 2 or 3 years, I think you can honestly say that with no bias, that was one of the coldest. It was raining, wasn't it? It was
outside,
raining.
In the rain, in heels, wasn't no cute dresses. What?
All black joints, like that was, come on, man. If you know, you know, but legit, I have to say that because we're past, like, listen, yes, we're Greek, but we're not like back in my day Greek.
Yeah.
And I know Rachel would never bring it up on some like we had the best, because we don't do stuff like that. But I have to say it for her because it legitimately, best show I'd ever seen.
It's the facts.
And there's only 2 other shows that I would even consider like in that same category. Hands down. Cold. And this is before I was even knew about real Greek life and stuff like that. I didn't even Rachel was joining. All that stuff. So it was just, that was a very eye-opening experience. It was cold. I got to say that for the record.
For sure.
Absolutely,
it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
But here we are.
No,
I love that description for why you picked this movie, and I can't wait to get this conversation going. As far as the stats go, the film was released February 12th of 1988. Directed by Spike Lee, his second feature film, right after She's Gotta Have It and right before School Daze. So it's a nice three movie run to start your career. I'm sorry, right before Do the Right Thing. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, so She's Gotta Have It, School Daze, Do the Right Thing, back to back. Then you got Mo Better Blues right after that. So Spike
was on a run.
He was on a run early on. Had a budget of an estimated $6.5 million. It grossed $14.5 million worldwide. It was one of Columbia Pictures' most profitable movies of 1988. I know it had $1.8 million the opening weekend. Normally we give the stats on how long it was in the theaters and all that kind of stuff. I did not find the length. I did find one thing that was saying 4 weeks, which may be right. I mean, this opened up at number 10 in the box office in the 88. So it wasn't like it was, it made a profit, obviously, but it wasn't like it was stayed number 1 for 3 or 4 weeks. So it makes sense if it was only there for a month. That made sense for a Spike Lee movie and black films in general. And you currently have to rent or own So if you were looking for it, it's not on streaming. Go ahead and pay that $4 and some change to rent it and get have some recollection of the film. As far as awards go, only one nomination, a 1988 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Picture. It lost to Coming to America. And as far as the cast, sheesh, got a lot of people, man. Bear with me. Lawrence Fishburne, who was credited as Larry Fishburne, as Von Dap Dunlap, 2 years before Furious Styles. It's crazy the range, because he went from college student to full-ass dad with a teenage son in the span of 2 years. Giancarlo Esposito as Julian Dean Big Brother Almighty Eves. Tisha Campbell as Jane Toussaint. Do you know who was considered for that role?
Is she already in the film?
She's not in the film. 1980s light skin and can sing.
I don't know.
Vanessa Williams.
Vanessa Williams. Perfect.
Vanessa Williams. I read a couple different things about why she didn't join. I've also read that Spike Lee, knowing that he had some musical aspects to this film, he saw Tisha in Little Shop of Horrors, and just said, you know, hey, that just works for me. Tisha Campbell's funny because she said that blonde in her hair got so bad, yeah, she had to cut it off because it destroyed her hair, she said. So just interesting. Kime as Rachel Meadows, Joe Seneca as President Harold McPherson, Art Evans as Cedar Cloud. He was also in CB4, which we covered on this podcast. Ozzie Davis as Coach Odom, Bill Nunn as Grady. Obviously, he has been in a ton of Spike Lee films. Spike Lee himself as Half Pint, and we also have appearances from Brantford Marcellus, Kadeem Hardison, Joy Lee, Jasmine Guy, Samuel Jackson, AJ Johnson, Casey Lemons, the director of Eve's Bayou. She was in Candyman. She also directed Talk to Me, which we got to get that on the board here soon. I feel like we've name dropped Talk to Me about
so many
times in these episodes. We got to go ahead and get that movie done. And also Casey Davis, who she's in a bunch of Tyler Perry stuff. She was one of the women in the window. Yeah, she was one of the women in the window with AJ Johnson. Also, can't ignore, especially with this podcast, can't ignore the Different World connection.
Come on.
So you have 3 central cast members. Kadeem Hardison, Daryl Bell, shout out to the Good Bros, one of my fraternity brothers, and also Jasmine Guy. And there were 5 other actors in this film who appeared on A Different World, even including Tisha Campbell. So this was released. School Daze was released during the first season of A Different World. So all of it kind of played out together. It's ironic that they all are in the same film, and here we are. So with that being said, also shout out to Ruth Carter. We mentioned her numerous times, costume director, design, like she took care of everything in this film as well, just to show you how long she's been dominating and doing things in Hollywood. But I got to ask you, Rachel, movie poster Hall of Fame, yes or no?
The nostalgia has to say yes.
You have to put this. So one of the things I look for when we talk about movie poster Hall of Fame, how recognizable is it? And literally, first glance, you don't even have to look at the title. You know exactly what that poster is and what movie it goes to. I think that's first ballot Hall of Famer. School Daze, 1,000%. I would have a School Daze poster in my office or wherever else because it is that iconic. It's original, stands out. One of Spike's better posters. Obviously, I think Do the Right Thing is probably his GOAT poster, but School Daze is right there. It's right there. So I don't think that's much of a discussion. Let us know your thoughts on that. And of course, classic or not?
Absolutely.
I don't think I trust anyone who says it's not a classic.
Yeah. Before, someone was telling me when I started my rewatch today, they were like, "What are you watching?" And I said, "I'm watching School Daze." And they said, "I've never seen that." I said, "I know." Because you would know what it is from the intro. Yeah.
It's it says a lot about who you are. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think that this film isn't for everyone.
Sure.
It's not for everyone. It's just not. And there's some aspects of that in this film. We'll talk about it probably when we get to the KFC scene, everything else. This film isn't, and Spike Lee, as we know, has his own unique way of telling stories. They can kind of seem like they're a little bit all over the place. That was part of our criticism of Crooklyn. Like, it was just like, all right, like this stuff is just going on. But there's also beauty in it. And I think people look at School Daze as a college movie when it's really just a backdrop to have these other conversations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this movie isn't about school itself. That's why I said the synopsis really is about more than Half Pint trying to join a fraternity. They have other movies about that. I've mentioned very briefly before. There's a film on Netflix called The Burning Sands. Trust me, we will never ever discuss that film on here. But that's more of the synopsis of that movie. Mm-hmm. This has a lot more going on with it. And if you're going to school, then you can recognize all of these characters.
For sure.
All of them. From Dap all the way to Half Pint. So, and unfortunately, we know way too many Half Pints and not enough Daps. even though Dap is exhausting.
Yes.
You know, it just kind of fits the bill. So as far as the origin of the film goes, it is loosely based on Spike Lee's time at Morehouse University in the 70s. Obviously picked up on Morehouse College. Morehouse College. You are absolutely right. In the 70s, he spent time there and obviously graduated. He is a Morehouse man. He started writing the screenplay after the release of She's Gotta Have It. It originally had a $3 million budget, and he was in a 3-picture deal with Island Pictures. But they dropped out because they were like, this film looks like it's going to go about $2 million over budget. Mm-hmm. We don't really feel like breaking off that bread, so we're going to we're going to get out of this deal. Which is crazy because School Daze is School Daze, as we mentioned. It's a classic. And then right after that, you have Do the Right Thing. So imagine just cutting ties before an Oscar-nominated film comes along like that from Spike Lee. That's kind of dumb. But Columbia Pictures stepped right in and said, we will go ahead and take that. They acquired the film, paid $6.1 million. Like I said, 6.1, 6.5 to make sure the film got done. Filmed from March of 87. So as soon as Ray P entered the world, it kicked off and ended in May of 87. So just shy of 8 weeks it took to film this. They filmed in Atlanta on the campus of Morehouse College, and then that got shut down because there were rumors and there were words about, hey, we don't like the way HBCUs are being portrayed in this film. Specifically from things that I read, it was about not the president, but the other guy, the board of trustees, the director of the board of trustees, Cedar Cloud.
Yeah.
That kind of character they just didn't like, which, hit dogs holler. It is what it is. But they tried to film
You took the words.
Yeah. But the Atlanta University Center, they kind of came to the forefront when it came to those grievances. So Morehouse College was out of the picture. Clark Atlanta out of the picture. I've read some things where they filmed some of the stuff at Morris Brown College, but I've also read where Morris Brown College said, nah, we cool as well. So they relocated to Atlanta University and shot some additional scenes in Brooklyn, obviously the home of Spike Lee. But just one of those very interesting things where he had to find somewhere to film. Like I said, it uses a college campus to have a broader conversation about things such as colorism, class, activism, hair texture, elitism.
Yeah.
And one thing that Roger Ebert wrote about when he was filming this, because I think he gave it 3 out of 4, 3.5 out of 4. And it's funny when you go look at reviews. Remember, everyone, we're talking about the 80s. We're not talking about 2024. When Spike Lee is an established name, he's a legend. We know exactly what his work is. But this is when black film still had, oh man, I was about to say something. You had certain tropes, but there's a movie I just watched. You might have seen it already, Rachel. I'll talk to you about it after we finish. It's definitely going to be a February pick for Romance Month. 1,000%. 1,000%. One of a low-key, under the radar movie I found on Hulu. Can't wait to get your thoughts on it.
Ooh, okay.
Can't wait to get your thoughts on it. Either way, I say all that because that movie that I'm discussing talks about, as an actor, as a black actor, even still, some of the roles when you're starting out that you have to go out for versus regular black people things. And Roger Ebert was mentioning that, for this film, he acknowledged his whiteness and was like, I can't say for sure, but this has to be one of the most honest and depicting works of black people. And he said the one thing he found unique about it was it's black people talking to black people.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really a comment. Like I said, take your mind back to 88. For those of you who, we can't even take our minds back to 88, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The film wasn't trying to do anything. It wasn't trying to set any kind of political stance unless it was talking to Black people. It wasn't made for anybody else. It wasn't like Do the Right Thing where it was trying to start this larger conversation. It was literally all Black cast. I don't think there was one white person in the movie, now that I'm thinking about it.
I can't think of
any. So. I really can't think of any. And like I said, everything was a conversation amongst. You said what?
The Snodgrasses.
Yeah, the Snodgrasses. Yeah. Wow, that whole thing is wild in itself. But yeah, talking to Black people from a Black perspective, and it was kind of for us to have our own conversations. And Spike Lee had final cut of the film, which is extremely rare, especially back then. He was able to get final cut. So everything that we see is his vision. Rachel.
Yes.
Do you remember your first time seeing School Daze?
The first time I saw School Daze was on BET.
Word.
Back when they used to show movies on Saturday nights.
What year are we talking? What age?
I may have been in high school. I may have been in high school the first time I saw School Daze.
Got you.
But then I had it on DVD freshman year of college, and I watched it incessantly in the crossings.
Shout out to the crossings, man.
Shout out to the crossings.
All the real ones stayed in the crossings.
And did.
My first experience is similar, very similar. I saw it in high school, but like I said, there is a certain level of emotional maturity, intellectual maturity that you have to reach to really understand what this movie's talking about, because high school for us was in the 2000s, and we knew Spike Lee for other things. I mean, I probably saw this right after I saw this for the first time. Inside Man probably came out. You know what I mean? So you know him for a lot of other things, and it's kind of like, this is a little bit different. And his early work is definitely different from some of his newer work. But freshman year, like you, went to Best Buy, got School Daze, and watched it. I don't want to say nonstop, but watched it a lot. And that's when I really came to love it and really appreciate what it is.
For sure. What is the music video? It was Missy Elliott. I kind of want to say it's Work It, but I don't think it's Work It, where she does the whole wake up scene it's either at the beginning of the video or the end. And it had a making the video on MTV, and she did the whole, this is an ode to Spike Lee's School Daze.
That's a great question. I'm trying to think, because the first thing I thought of was Teenage Love Affair, Alicia Keys.
That too, but it's a music video.
Let me see. I'm looking it up in real time. Let's see what we find.
Yeah. But so that probably piqued my curiosity while you search for that. And then I'm telling you, me, Faye, Saria, this other person whose name I won't say on here. We watch that shit all of the time. Tony, we watch School Daze damn near every day. Probably should have been studying, probably should have been in class, but we watch this shit like nobody's business. That's how much I love it.
Nah, we'll talk about it, because it's not, when we get to rankings, it's really not one of the highest rated Spike Lee films. It's actually like towards the bottom. And that's funny but when you look at any list of like Spike Lee's best movies, and everybody, Billboard, Forbes, I think Forbes has a good list. I think it was number 6.
Okay.
And Spike's directed a lot of films, and it made it to the top 6, higher than He Got Game and other films, because of what it really means. And the whole, even now, almost 40 years later, outside of the aesthetic and maybe some of the language that has been cleaned up over the years as a society, still watch it and still learn. And I wanted to know, it's actually a perfect transition, are we still having these same conversations about these same things?
Yes.
Is it at the same level?
Maybe not to the same degree, but I still very much cringe when I hear people talk about good hair. People being color struck, like it's so lame to me.
Yeah.
But the conversations are still being had. I mean, Cat Williams opened the year up with a quote that, and I'm messing it up, but I have just taken this because the sentiment remains: is this person beautiful, or are they just light skinned, like with a weird face? And often it's the latter.
That's real.
But, you know,
That's
there's
real.
a pedestal because of this said complexion, you know? So
It's funny you say that because I'll never forget, and I won't mention, we don't know the young lady, but she's a basketball player. And I'll never forget watching her in college and was thinking to myself, like, I remember saying, I put this on Twitter in real time, like back when I was extremely active on Twitter. And I was like, am I tripping, or is she cold, or am I bugging? Like, and I remember someone responded and was like, hey, I've been there before. I know exactly what you're doing right now. And it kind of stems from that whole, like, are you just light skinned? And not even saying that that's my thing or the whole preference, but it's just how society, you look at certain people, and because they're lighter, without you even knowing, you might have a preference towards them. And it was just one of those things. And it's just a very interesting conversation. I think it's expanded to the diaspora as well. Those conversations, especially when we get out of been a lot of diaspora wars over the past few years. I'll say it like that. And especially when it comes to culture and Black culture, and specifically African-American culture, and the impact that it has. And there might be other people that, there might be people that disagree from other places. And you look at, not to bring music into it, but you look at everything that's happened this year with Kendrick and Drake, and talk about them niggas from Canada ain't the same as niggas from down here. And there's all types of combos that go on with it. And I think, to Spike Lee's point, not a lot of us haven't woken up, or waking up, or whatever the correct term is. But a lot of us need to wake up when it comes to that, because a lot of those conversations are kind of irrelevant, and they're not done in good faith. I guess that's my one thing. And I think films like this, you were able to have these conversations in good faith because they led to them, right? You can watch a piece of art, and that's why I always mention about School Daze. School Daze should be taught. You know,
it should.
It should.
It should be in somebody's cultural. If you don't take Africana studies and have a degree in it, like me,
Flex.
It should be in somebody's cultural anthropology class. I would be very surprised if it's not, because you consider race and gender, colorism, socioeconomic status. You didn't talk about it. But if we relate, obviously, you all know Kieron and I went to college together. We went to school in my hometown, but I lived on campus. So there was a constant battle, and we'll get into it when we get into scenes, but the locals versus, you know.
Oh, I have something to say about that. Oh, do I have something to say about that?
The visitors, you know, and the infiltration into Toledo society. I'll use Toledo because that's where we were, in Toledo society, and this, and the third, and it is a thing.
That's perfect too, Rachel, because when you look at Ohio as a whole, obviously people name the C's.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland. And Toledo might be the perfect example for something like this, because I feel like it's more prevalent on smaller. Because Toledo, I don't want to say Toledo's not a small city by any stretch, because the first city I'm thinking of is Oxford, right? So Oxford, Ohio is about 35, 40 miles north of Cincinnati. That's where Miami University is. Yeah. And when I tell y'all, I mean, one road in, one road out. Like, I made that trip plenty of times. And when I tell you, you notice the difference from when school is in and when school is out. And when you take towns like that, when you take OU, Athens, Ohio, when there is a little bit of fuck y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And that sits in any, and I think Toledo's just big enough and just still not quite as large to where you have that effect. Because man, I tell you, I'll save it because Toledo, man, listen, let me tell y'all something.
I saved many a Clevelandite from getting their ass kicked.
Listen, let me tell y'all something real quick. I know y'all be looking at some of these cities, and y'all looking at, this little Podunk town, little Toledo, what the fuck? I've never been to a city, and I've been to a lot of them.
They get active.
Toledo niggas do not play. Only time in my life I ever got a gun pulled on me, it was from a Toledo nigga. And
yeah,
I understood.
Please tell this story.
You know what the issue was? And a lot of people run into issues because they think some small city like that. The issue was I thought the nigga was, I didn't know how serious that nigga was.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the gun part is not, listen, it wasn't that deep, but now I see you a serious nigga, and you know what? I didn't understand your game. I wasn't familiar with your game.
I wasn't familiar with your game. That reminds me of a story. I'm sorry, y'all, as we reminisce through college days. They do swiftly pass. But our good friend Tony, who grew up in Toledo but moved to North Carolina and then came back for college. This was when Bijou was downtown.
Shout out to the Bijou.
Shout out to the Bijou.
Hey, man, shout out to the Bloods. I know exactly what you about to say. Hey, man, those fucking niggas up down there.
So, again, class, there was a sect of people, of students who around 2005, we really started talking about niggas cooning. So a fight breaks.
I'm sorry, Rachel. To the point where Jim Jones Ballin' had came out and niggas remixed it to cooning. Like it was one of them type of things. 18 years old, 19. Y'all get the point. Rachel, keep going.
Classist and egregious college niggas. So shout out to girlfriends. Our good friend, he proceeds, a fight breaks out in Bijou. Chairs are flying, bodies are flying. Tony decides to throw up a C and say coonin'. And I am not affiliated with the Bloods in any capacity, but somebody that I may or may not have been familiar with stepped to Tony, who has never been in a fight a day in his life.
Facts.
I had to see the labor of Black women. I put my body between him and oh boy. I said, he doesn't know. I promise you, he's not throwing up a C for Crip. I promise you that. And he backed off.
No.
He was like, all right, Ray. It was literally that kind of shit going on.
Nah, niggas was hanging out balconies. Like it was bad. It was bad, y'all. Like this isn't, I promise nobody's exaggerating this story. That's why as soon as Rachel said Bijou downtown, the first thought I had about the Bijou downtown was the night the motherfucking Toledo Bloods came in and wrecked shit. And then nobody do nothing about it because they couldn't do nothing about it.
Not
hey, man, shout out to them Northside Toledo niggas. Do not fuck with them.
Please.
Not a game. I don't care where you from. I don't care what city you from, and you from New York, Chicago, Detroit. Stop it.
Don't play with them people.
Do not. Nope. That's all I got to say about it.
And this is not aggrandizing gang culture. This is just reminiscing on a story of a very true event that happened.
Because
almost
once again,
years ago.
You know what's funny? And we'll move on. And I have a story I'll say for in the scenes, but I'll never forget when there's a song called "In My Projects" that came out. We was probably middle school. Cuckoo Cow. Was that Cuckoo Cow?
Sure.
Listen, I found out Cuckoo Cow was from Milwaukee, and the first thing I said was, "Milwaukee got projects?
Oh yeah.
Like, Milwaukee got hoods?
Oh yeah."
And keep in mind, y'all, I'm a middle school age. Like you ain't seen it. The world is Cincinnati to me and family vacation spots. Wherever we went outside of that, that's as big as the world is. You think of Milwaukee, you thinking like Green Bay, cornfields. Like what the fuck? They got hoods. You might think of somewhere like Toledo. Like Toledo got hoods. Listen, Toledo niggas will fuck you up twice, man. And like I said, I'll say more about it, not to glorify, but I'm just telling you, I just want people to know when you go into something thinking one thing, you quickly find out it's the other thing.
You thought
it's
it was
something you will never forget. Plenty of niggas, but it's the other way. Plenty of Toledo. There are people, grown men, and it's probably some women in their life right now who owe everything to the citizens of Toledo, because it probably taught them life lessons
for sure
about what to do, what not to do, who to play with, who not to play with. And I'm not even joking, because you will find out very quickly. Like, if you ain't about that life, because they ain't no. Best scenes. Let's get into it.
Best scenes.
We can talk about this shit all day. I'm gonna let you go ahead and start, Rachel. It's your movie.
One of my favorite movies. Let's get into, of course, the intro, where we kick it off with.
Got to
every week. It's the intro. One, I love me a good hymn. So the true intro. I love that in the historical context of all these Negro spirituals, blah, 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 blah. HBCU, love that. And we meet the cast, of course, how we do every week. It lets us see who's who and who's down with what. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, are you getting to the like actual dap on the steps and everything? That whole, or are you just talking about literally just the hymn? Okay, cool. So yes.
Yep, that whole thing. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I really enjoy from the opening, not from the hymn portion, but right when we see the characters, is it takes you back to college. In college, it reminds you of how much fight you have at that point of your life and how much you care about things. Life, and I don't mean to sound like pessimistic or somber, but like life has a way of just, you experience enough of it to kind of know what's doable and what's not. Maybe that's not even the right way of saying it, but what's really going to make an impact and what's not. You kind of get to that point in your life. And college, you don't think about that. You have that, you're full of vigor and fight, and you just want to change the world. And it reminds you of that. And especially during this time when we talk about apartheid, because this was going on every college campus back in the late 80s, or 80s in general, about, divesting, or another word, disinvesting from South Africa, and any company that has business in South Africa to take your money away from them because of apartheid, and we want to end that. And it just, I remember I was vice president of our Black Student Union. I was president of our Black Student Union. I still have a newspaper clipping, not from the Blade. There was another little magazine, The Truth. Yes,
one of those two.
One of the two. I still have it, so I'll look it up. Either way, they still got me, headshot, picture in the front, article. Jenna 6, when Jenna 6 happened, like we was dressing all black, man, like just leading the charge and stuff like that. There's some of your most revolutionary moments, and you just hope that you want to fight for the world that you want to see.
That's it. When I stepped on campus, it was a year after my first trip to Africa, and I was a radicalized private school, radicalized first year psychology student. I know I was on my parents' nerves. It had to be insufferable. But to your point, just that young vigor, wanting to fight for the change you want to see, for the world that you want to see. That's really what college is all about.
Nah, it really is. And then, of course, you got to mention G5G and seeing them profiled, or what we know today is profiled. Now, keep in mind, this is 1988. I think hazing was still legal until 1990. So all of this stuff that you see in this film was not, if you're watching it today, you're probably thinking like, what? They out in the open? Like that was normal. That was extremely normal. And you also see, if you've been to school, that tension between Greeks and non-Greeks. That's also a real thing. And there's just a little bit of, like you said, a little bit of classism when it comes to that, and just certain things that one group represents. And there's even a quote where Dax said, like, he's confused. He's confused, but he's smart.
Yeah.
So just kind of judging people off of certain things of that nature. Just a perfect way to open the film and kind of see exactly who we knew who Julian was. We knew who Dap was. We saw Half Pint Little Ass on the ground. Everything else. So yeah, absolutely. I will take the next scene, and I'm gonna say G5G. I don't know if you want to call it set. I don't know what they were doing.
The greetings in the library.
Greetings in the library. Yeah. So just a lot of things that just stood out and just made you reminisce. Small stuff started with 10, now we at 8. Just certain things that you just like, man, just takes you back to a certain part of your life. The greetings, niggas did this. We got to talk about this. And keep in mind, it's been a long time since I've been on a college campus and actively involved with, collegiate Greek life, Greek life in particular. But the level of toxic masculinity that took place in my day,
for sure,
that you're not aware of in real time, like that's really the way people define what being a man is, or what being a quote unquote real nigga is, and some of the things that you had to do to qualify for that. You look at now, it's like, yo, y'all some clowns. But it's also a real thing. Like, I ain't pledging no virgins. That's 1,000% something that anybody who's ever been in anyone's basement has heard someone say to someone, or you might have had it told to you. Like, and that's just one of those things. Or questioning your sexuality.
Basement before 1990.
Yeah, if you was in somebody's basement before 1990. Thank you, Rachel. Like I said at the beginning, this is all what ifs and hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Questioning people's sexuality. When it comes to things like that, like all of that was, I mean, on broad display. I've heard stories of people saying things about certain, comments made, and it's just like, damn, like, come on, man, like, stall them out, Debo. Sure. But that just happens, and that's one of those things you see right here, and everything that they put on here allegedly was spot on.
For sure.
There might have a couple minor like details that might be a little bit different, allegedly, but and we found out a key piece of information in this scene, which is that was once online and he dropped line.
I wanted to ask you this. When did, we don't know, obviously, but when do you think Dap dropped? Before you answer, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
Dap and Julian were online together. And that is the vitriol. That is some of the tension between them. At first, the first time I watched it, I was like, damn, was Dap online with Half Pint? But no, he only been on 6 weeks. So I believe, because I don't think it was the year before with the other people who had to hold their light, get their lights held by the
gamma rays.
Gamma rays. I was about to call them something else. But but I really think he was online with Julian, and that is part of their beef.
1,000%, Rachel. You took the words right out of my mouth.
He had to lead. Dap was probably the tell.
I did not. So there's a couple. You absolutely right. There's a couple things there's a couple of reasons why I got to that point. When they were in the library, and when I said they, I mean Half Pint and Dap. They're in the library, and Dap mentions, like, when you need your laundry done, I did it for you. When you needed money for food, and your big brothers, I got that for you. I don't think if it was that fresh, I think Dap would have been like, man, fuck y'all. Like, nigga, I don't think he dropping line is just one of those things, man. It's just I've seen people transfer schools because word got out that they dropped the line. Or I've heard stories of people transferring schools, because I don't know anything about hazing or pledging. But I've heard stories about things like that. And it's a real thing. It really is like a scarlet letter for Black Greeks.
For sure.
And having that around you. And when you think about it, I don't even want to go down that path. It is what it is. But there's a lot of things that happen when you're in college, especially involved in Greek life, that you kind of wear to a degree. You kind of wear it proudly. And there's a side eye for certain people who might not have shared life experiences.
For sure.
And that's just kind of what it is. And it's kind of fucked up when you think about it now. But at the time, it's still one of those, like, damn, man. But Dap also seems like the type of nigga that drop line and not give a fuck about it.
For sure.
100%, anybody before 1990, if you've ever been in the trenches with someone and they leave you in the trenches, that's forever. Yeah. And yes, we're supposed to grow and be mature individuals, but that's forever. I'm thinking of someone right now, and it ain't no issue. It's just you always gonna get the side eye. You always gonna get the side eye.
You always get the side eye, and not just there, a step further. I tell people this all the time, or I told people this when I was a mentor to the youth. Who you are in said scenarios is who you'll be. And so even that, dare I say, character flaw of letting it go, it's something about you that's always going to be shifty. And Dap, for all his revolutionary purposes, all intent, he was a shifty nigga.
He was definitely a shifty nigga.
Your
What I
girl
would have
count on you to hold her down.
It's wild. What I would love to know past that, Rachel, is what happens. Like, were you always this person and decided that I can make change from the inside, or were you a different person and then realized after this experience that you needed to be something else?
It's probably two things. It's probably both, and it may have been in you, and you may have seen some things and like, this is some bullshit, as to which fair.
Very, very fair.
Very fair. This is some bullshit. But also in 1987, 88, I know that this scarlet letter is upon me. Okay, so it's some bullshit and I want my niggas to be better. But also, I have to find a way to rebrand myself and to stop me from looking and being ostracized from social society. If I ostracize myself because I'm too cool for this shit, I'm the fellas, we highbrow, we formed our own fraternity of.
But you see a lot of that too.
Other niggas, you know, we're above the fray. But also, we still cool. I'm still down. I'm still me. Because I'm about this other shit now, my brother.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Tricky.
I understand everything you're saying. It's a very tricky thing. And it's just one of those. Shout out to them, man. 6 weeks, man. Must be nice. Shout out to y'all, man. G5Gs.
My next scene is Half Pint trying to get some pussy. Kieron, you mentioned, you know, not pledging no virgins, blah, 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 blah. This scene, and let me ask you, I have it in my randoms. The Wood is one of your favorite movies.
Hands down.
When the guys were trying to lose their virginity, is that an ode to this, to Half Pint making his rounds to the women, trying to get somebody to come up off some warm and tender?
In a small way, not directly, but I think it's a shared experience.
Yeah.
There's a J. Cole lyric in Too Deep for the Intro on Friday Night Lights where he just said being a virgin is something to be embarrassed about. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of young men, I won't just say black men, but I hung with mostly black men. So they reach a point in your life where it's kind of like, all right, I'm ready for this. Now, the thing is, the big difference is in The Wood, we're talking about 16 versus Half Pint, who looks like he's never even kissed a woman.
You ain't see no parts of the pussy.
You ain't see no parts of the pussy. So I don't think Half Pint could have been my friend, bro. Because like you a creep. Like this is straight up creep shit. Like, do you see what you're doing right now? Do I need to record you so you can watch what you're doing right now? Because this is next level creep.
So gone, he didn't see it as that.
And that's just crazy. Like, that's insane. When you think about that, that's insane. What he was on.
It is. Even when we get to the end, sorry to skip y'all to the Jane of it all. He didn't realize that this is some bullshit.
And you know what? As a virgin, I don't think he would. I don't think he really cared about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, going back to that same lyric, like before he said that line, he said, always thought my first time would be someone I cared about. Pretty much like people sacrificing what they think sex and virginity is for the sake of saying I did it.
And to have Jane Toussaint, the baddest bitch with that broken ass blonde.
No, a notch on the belt.
Crazy.
Notch on the belt, which is crazy. I told y'all my story a while ago. High school, similar to the Wood, me and my two best friends.
Not y'all had a pot.
No, we didn't have a pot, but I was the first one. This is before like intercourse, but I was the first one to have a sexual experience. And I shout out to my brother Good. I told Good, and I told another individual who will not be named, similar to you earlier, will not be named. And immediately, nigga, I don't even think the football game was over. And I was getting cussed out. And I immediately learned from that time at a very young age, Rich became a don't kiss and tell nigga. Like
for sure.
Ever. For sure. There's a lot of, and that, man, listen, keep people out your business, man. You'll be amazed how peaceful life is.
That's it.
When you do things that way. I'll say it like that. The next scene I have, President McPherson and Cedar Cloud.
Okay. Is that
this is before they sit down Dak. This is just them two.
Okay.
It's a small scene.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's when Cedar Cloud is kind of giving the history of the university. And they have the conversation about if HBCUs have outlived its usefulness. The need doesn't exist in an integrated society. And President McPherson brings up, it exists at Notre Dame. It exists at Yeshiva, Brandeis, Brigham Young, and obviously these are very specific universities for a very specific group. Notre Dame, Catholics, Brigham Young, Mormons, Yeshiva, are Jewish brothers and sisters. So what do you mean it can't work here, but it can work there? Like, why is there still a need at the Brigham Young when it's not a need here at these HBCUs? And Cedar Cloud told him, like, the difference is everyone else is getting support from their own. The HBCUs don't. And why won't blacks support these schools? We had the Coach Prime conversation a couple years ago when Coach Prime was at Jackson State. As much as it did for HBCUs, people wanted him to stay. They felt that he had enough of a name and enough clout to where you can really change the landscape. I think there's a bigger conversation there. I think systemically it's a lot of, it's just a lot of ground to catch up on.
For sure.
And when you look at, and this is something you can look up on your own, the athletic facilities. So, all right, let's put it like this. I can probably guarantee you without looking up the numbers, the Ohio State football locker room probably costs more than the endowment of a good 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 HBCUs combined. And we're not going to get that deep in the woods here on this episode, but look it up. Look up some of these HBCUs endowments.
Yeah.
If you want to look them up to athletic facilities or just look them up to Ivy League schools. Look at the endowment of a Princeton University compared to a Central State University or a Florida A&M University compared to a Harvard. Yeah. And it's jarring. It is jarring. And I just think it's the fact that they had that conversation in 1987, 88, and it's still a conversation today, I thought is very telling. I also don't know anyone who went to a HBCU that would change the experience.
Not a soul.
So you can't say it's not necessary, but also it does seem like there's not a ton of support. And I forget which college that was. It might have been Morehouse College when one of the famous alums, he's a billionaire. His family dedicated or committed to wiping out the student debt of every single day. That was his graduation class. Yeah, and just those things that are, he made it. I remember him saying, like, this is a challenge to all my other Morehouse brothers. Yeah. Because there's more we can do. There's more we can give. For sure. And I just thought it's a very telling. It's a larger conversation, one that maybe not be for the culture garden, but it is very fascinating when you look at it. For sure. And there's a reason why it's hard to tell some of these students who are number one in their class when it comes to this sport, that sport, to support an HBCU and go to HBCU, because it might not align perfectly. And this might be a better conversation when we get to the scene where Dap is in the room with his boys, and, you know, Brooks Brothers suits and all that. But sometimes not everybody want to do this revolutionary shit, man. I want my Brooks Brothers suit. And that don't mean I'm any less black, more black, whatever it is. Just a very interesting convo. And I thought that we're still having it almost 40 years later. Very telling. So I wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, no, very telling. And I will be very curious. And we've seen some of sort of the shift when Deion was at Jackson State, with players flipping and choosing the HBCUs. Now, while neither you nor myself attended, I would like to see our 5-star athletes going to HBCUs. I want to see that. I understand what Deion is doing as far as the whole Power 5 thing. But we saw, you know, even though he messed it up, Ed Reed down at FAMU for a hot second, literally a hot second. Eddie George is at TSU doing very well.
I'm sorry, man. Ed Reed cussed the motherfuckers out on that Instagram post, man. It was over for my mans.
Yeah, that's it. But he is coming from expecting to see a certain level of facility, and unfortunately, because of funding, let's not talk about these. I'm not going to get into my political rant about these Pell Grants and the defunding of the Department of Education and how that will affect HBCUs. But look it up. My next scene is the Gamma Ray meeting. Another small scene. Gamma Rays, they were an auxiliary group to the Gammas. There were some auxiliary groups on our campus. One of them, a lot of those girls I love deep, so I'll keep it cute. But jokes. But jokes. I'm sorry, y'all, because this is very much a Greek episode, and it might not sit with a lot of people, but it is what it is. I appreciate it. It showed what the stereotype, quote unquote, of this auxiliary groups as a whole, paying for the parties, doing a lot of the cleaning and cooking. I don't know. Somebody who chose that life would have to speak to the truths of the matter, but that, because of School Daze, was my assumption of what it was that y'all were doing. Now, y'all didn't have angels.
We didn't have angels on the yard. I think there was one school in the state of Ohio, somewhere in Dayton, and I don't know if it was Central, I don't know if it was Wilberforce, I don't know who. Somebody had some angels, but that was it. Yeah, we had no angels.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny just because, shout out to that. And then the one soul.
Hey, officially. We didn't have officially.
Bless that. The one soul Gamma Ray with some sense. It's like, nigga, we pay for everything. I'm not paying for this party. I'm not cleaning up. Like, enough is enough. She was regretting her whole decision. Like, why am I in this shit? Yeah, I just appreciated that. Shout out to everybody in those scenarios.
Shout out to them, man. How long did it take? And it's funny because back in the day, I think it was common. I don't want to say common, but from my understanding, it was common to maybe join an auxiliary group and then go ahead and join a sorority. Whereas when Rachel and myself were in school, like if you were joining an auxiliary group, you can kiss that goodbye. Yeah, ain't nobody. There's a certain stigma that comes with it, similar to the Gamma Rays. And I'm trying to think if the first time, I don't know, it might have taken me to get on to campus to realize that they weren't a sorority. I think my first couple times watching this film in high school, I thought they were in a sorority. I thought that was, I didn't know what that was until I saw some groups up close and personal. I'm like, oh, okay, then got you. Okay.
If they wanted to, they had to go grad. Your next scene?
Whole nother conversation. Jigaboos versus Wannabes.
Yes, Madame Riri's hair salon. One of the best scenes in the whole movie.
Go ahead and take that over, because I think this is a little bit more. It's funny because when you talk about, I just want to point this out, and I know it's 1988. It's just funny that when you talk about the black women in this film, it's not a you're not having the same conversations Julian and Dap are having, or Julian and the fellas. It's literally about beauty standards, which also lets you know where society was and how they viewed women. Like you're here to be pretty, like you're not here to be heard.
Yeah.
And the biggest disconnect between them was based on hair texture and color and light skin, dark skin, and the whole nine. So I thought that's very interesting, but I want to hear your take, obviously, because this is one of the best scenes in the film.
For sure.
And something that it might be one of the most truest things in the film is how all of this was portrayed back then. I don't know. It's gotten better, but I'm not saying it's 100% solved.
So yeah, Madame Riri Salon, we see the jigaboos and the wannabes, the gamma rays, and I hate to even call them jigaboos, but the jigs, who were just a random assortment of primarily dark-skinned black women, rocking the natural before it was popular. We're in the 80s, so we're in the land of bleach blonde. Of bleach blonde hair, and my God, color contacts were just sort of getting off the ground. Aside from the clash of complexion and hair, I don't know if you noticed, but the jigs were doing primarily like tap and jazz and black dance forms. And the base of the wannabes and the gamma rays was ballet, classically trained, you know, and we know that I'm not Felicia Rashad. What's that girl's name? Jasmine Guy.
Jasmine Guy, yeah.
Is a trained dancer, a trained ballerina. I think she danced for Ailey for a few years as well. But that was something that always stood out to me as someone who danced from like 4 to 18, you know. The difference in style and what that meant. And I don't know if you have any trivia, but one of the things with this film, Tisha Campbell has talked about it, that the accommodations for the dark and light-skinned people were very different. They had the wannabes and the gammas in this luxurious eating high on the hog, nice, beautiful apartment or hotel accommodations, and the jigs was in some bullshit. And Spike Lee did that intentionally to fuel the tensions between the two groups.
1,000% true. Anytime directors get into that bag, I think is very creative because it adds. I'll have a little bit more information about that. We talked about it on our 5 Heartbeats episode where there's a scene. You want my spot flash? Well, you ain't gonna get it because you ain't got it. You know, obviously the famous nigga even trying to riff like me. That whole scene was built off of tension. Like, so when Flash slammed that door in Eddie King's face, like that was not in the script. That was real life. That was real life. The actor who played Flash telling Robert Townsend multiple times, like, yo, because he's a trained fighter, like hand-to-hand combat. And he had issues and was telling, and for those who don't know, Michael Caine is a method actor. So yeah, they weren't talking to the actor. They were talking to Eddie King on the set, and the drunk Eddie King, the drugged Eddie King. And he was telling him, like, listen, I don't think Flash will have this nigga in his face like this, bro. Like, and personally, I'm not having this nigga in my face. If he does it one more time, it's gonna be some problems. And Robert's like, all right, then cool. Like, I'll tell him. And he go back to Michael and be like, hey man, do it, go harder. Go harder, just building that tension. So when you watch that scene, you see the door slam, you kind of see the shit shake. Because that was real anger. That was him stopping himself from putting hands on that man. Yeah. So Robert dug into that because he knew it was going to help his film and make his film better. So yeah, shout out to Spike Lee for that. And like I said, I'll have a little bit more information as we get further along in our scenes. Did you have anything else to say about that Jigaboos wannabe conversation?
Just the words. I love that shit. Shout out to Issa Rae in season 5 when she was one of the jigs for Halloween. That's it.
Yeah.
James,
I wonder how many
wanted Julian's ass, girl.
I wonder how many people, Black women specifically, bonded over we're dark skinned, and maybe we fit in our own crew versus being maybe not in our day, but definitely back in the 80s and stuff like that. Like you said, the natural hair, that was a bit of an anomaly. So
yeah,
very interesting times. That was my scene actually. So what's your actual next scene?
That was my next scene as well. Before I move there, I just want to say you talked about Tisha Campbell saying that blonde ate her hair up. Let me tell you, girlie, something. All blinds are not created equal. I too have burned my hair out fucking with this blonde. Go to a professional. Don't let your hair be dry. It will break off. It will fall the fuck out.
She should have cut that shit out.
Yeah, and
you see her with the low cutting house party. She said, "Nah, I can't do this shit."
That, and it made me think of when she barely had any hair on her brief stint on A Different World, which would have been after this. It was trying to go back. My Lord. My next scene is the coronation. Again, we did not go to a HBCU, so we do not have this amazing. Also, this whole film is like homecoming weekend.
Yes. Friday through Sunday. Monday of homecoming.
Yeah. So we did not have that. Shout out to the Rockets trying to make a little homecoming situation. But coronation, all of that, we did not have that. So I love it just for my introduction to that experience in and of itself. And again, I went to a white high school, so even our homecoming we didn't have coronation, but my cousins who went to Scott, they had coronation in the courts, all of that shit. HBCU culture, the good band, all of that shit was around the corner. I don't know. I ain't live that life.
You know what? To Rachel's point, y'all, like, obviously homecoming is one of the biggest deals when it comes to HBCUs. When we were at Toledo, I don't even really remember homecoming like ever. Like that was never anything to get out of bed for or jump in. Let's go to Rocket Hall or do this. Like, because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't until well after we left Toledo that they really tried to do like a black homecoming, invite people back and start to be a thing. But even in college, it wasn't like all right, it's homecoming weekend. What's that mean?
Over there. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not one kid's taking over our lot, but whatever. I love that we talked about how much of a musical person I am. So we've got Tisha Campbell or Jane Toussaint. Sorry, my MacBook is trying to give me a software update right now.
You gotta love this real-time podding, y'all. Real-time
podding. We've got Jane and Jasmine. I don't know if we got her name in the film, and the rest of the other gamma rays who don't want to be alone tonight. That is one of my favorite scenes from a movie. We talked about Madame Riri's, but I mean, come on. I don't want another useless night. She said, "Get me to a doctor. I came to see you instead." Hey. Poetry. Hello.
What to say?
That nigga singing "I Can Only Be Me." Tears the first time I heard it. I love this whole situation, the crowning of mission. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the song, very interesting, just for the simple fact. So in 1988, the same year this film released, Tisha Campbell filed a lawsuit against Spike Lee. $550,000. Said she was alleging non-payment for her contribution to the soundtrack and a lack of credit for the song "Be Alone Tonight." Thought that was very interesting. We had the Mo Better Blues conversation, and there was some, if you remember that convo about the one, I can't remember the actor's name who played Clark in that movie, but she had mentioned just some certain things about what it was like being on that set as a woman and things like that. So it's just one of those like, Spike, what's going on, bro? Burden of the black woman.
The burden. Okay, what's your next scene?
All right, so actually I'm going to reverse just a little bit because it's not a major scene, but I have to bring it up. Kind of brings into the conversation of what I mentioned because I think I appreciated this being in the film. So right before the coordination, Rachel is with her girls.
Yes.
In the dorm. And Rachel's not going to coordination. And her girls is on some like, that must mean Dap ain't going either. Like pretty much the idea of college women getting tied and their identity being associated with whoever they're dating at the time. And having friends that told her, like, you know, you haven't been with anyone since freshman year other than Dap. And, you know, he's cool, but he's snaking. Like, he a man. He can't help it. That's who he is. You might as well go out here and do what you need to do. And for anybody out here, and I'm sure most of our audience is around our age, so, but if there is happen to be a youth who is listening to this, especially young women, they don't get tied down, have fun, do it safely, but don't let your identity be, and I think we're past that phase now. I think a lot more, for extreme lack of better terms, independent women, but just women that just have a better idea of who they are and what they want to be, and some of these societal standards that have been placed on previous generations are no longer around, and women are making their own rules. Yeah, that's just one of those things where you see it, and I've seen it firsthand, and then you see later down the line, like, women haven't really experienced much, and it's like, damn.
How will you know what you like?
How will you know what you like? You know what I mean? You never liked. You never know.
How will you find out that fat meat is greasy?
I'm not touching that. But yeah, that's exactly, yeah, what Rachel said. Absolutely. That's real. That's real, though. I mean that sincerely. But that's a real thing that I saw a lot of people firsthand, a lot of women firsthand, that just getting dogged by niggas. Like, yo, man, like, I feel bad. I feel bad for how you dogging her, bro. And I ain't even got nothing to do with this. So yeah, I do think it's important that they put that in the film, just kind of like that very, very, very small nod to woman empowerment. Like, yo, you know, you ain't got to be with this nigga. Like,
please,
yeah,
please.
Fuck. Hey, that nigga Dream sang that shit. That nigga was a big head. Nigga said, fuck that nigga. Like, I ain't never hear a nigga sing that shit. You know how much of a hater you gotta be?
Me and my sins. Never mind.
Yeah.
Not that I was not I love your girl, but what's that little Wayne show to say that shit with ain't shit. Lollipop. We used to swap out that nigga for a certain fraternity. Not yours. Another
I know. Trust me, I know. I already know. Say less. I was around too, Rachel. I was around too.
Shout out to them.
I was around too. I don't know. Well, go ahead with your next scene. I might have a scene that happened right after the coronation or during the coronation.
It is the homecoming parade game, locker room game, that whole amalgamation of scenes.
All right. So very quickly before that, Rachel telling Dap that she wants to pledge Delta.
Yes.
Not this Rachel, of course.
Not me. Jokes, guys.
Just as two Greeks, we've seen this the whole nine. And let me say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and anybody that knows us can back this up. So this is not just two people just trying to make themselves sound better than what they are. One of the big differences, and I think one of the reasons why Greek life was different for people like Rachel and myself, is because we were already somebody when it came to having a social presence. Like the people who I crossed over with, Rachel, people like we were all known for certain things. Like we didn't already active in student life, already involved, already on the scene. So it wasn't like a lot of times. So Dap is telling her like Greeks change. This changes people. And I never felt that way. I was never changed because I was somebody, if anything, respectfully, like I felt like I brought value to my chapter. I'm just saying. I say that as humbly as possible. And I only say that because we were already active and involved. And put it like this. There's people who want to be a part of a Greek organization specifically, then there's people that want to be Greek.
For sure.
And I've seen both. I've seen people, and listen, if you are someone who's interested in Greek life and you have no idea what it is, and you're trying to learn, and you go to these different informationals, I get it. I understand. Are you trying to educate yourself? There's never too much thing. There's never a thing it's too much research, right? But I've also seen the people who were in certain rooms with me and swore their dedication and their love. And if I couldn't do this, I wouldn't do anything. And then you see them pop up doing something else.
For sure.
Shout out to them. That just shows me you wanted a little bit of this clout. And I've seen people that probably had a little bit more juice than they thought. Like, bro, you didn't even have to do this. Like, if that was the case, but they did it anyway. So Dap's conversation about, she's tripping if she pledges. Once again, Dap is exhausting. Shout out to those twin beds because college life.
They weren't even extra long twins.
Yeah, wasn't even no extra long twins. But it's just very interesting how people's mindsets, like I said, Greeks versus non-Greeks, about how they view people who want to join a fraternity or sorority. That is a real thing. And then it even leads into a deeper conversation of colorism, where Rachel accuses them. Like, sometimes I think the only reason you with me because I'm one of the darkest women on campus. Like, it fits into your it fits into your profile of this pro-vac blacktivist. Yeah. And I feel like that's what I'm here for. And I think early in that conversation, she told him, like, I think you really have a thing against lighter skinned blacks. Like, you really do. And I don't, Dap was oblivious to it, but she's just pointing out things from observation over time. Like, yo, like, you got to own up to some of this shit at some point. Like I said, the whole conversation, very interesting because you know a Dap. You've seen a Dap. You've talked to a Dap if you've been on a college campus.
For sure. I would say, I will agree with you about already having some sort of social currency on campus. I will say, though, I'll admit I was mean. I was meaner. Yeah, but it wasn't because of the letters. It was because of that Kappa. But
that's a whole different. That shit, hey, like you said, the bad boys, Rachel. That shit got a slant.
Yeah, for sure.
She got a slant because that was what a time.
I wouldn't, if there is a youth listening, I mean, you can go to all the informationals. I would encourage you to do your Googles while it's still
before you do that, because
having your name on all them lists looking crazy. Read and search a sisterhood and find somebody's books for you to check out. But bless that.
I can say that there is only one organization, and I'm currently a member of said organization. There's nobody that can ever, actually, is a funny thing because that one Kappa that Rachel brought up, I'll never forget being at the Shadow Lounge. And you remember the Shadow Lounge, Rachel, had like the up top thing where like 3 people can fit by the DJ booth. And I remember a conversation that was had between him and I. A recruitment conversation of sorts, and it was just like, nah. And it would have made, if you were around, it would have made sense, like, but that wasn't me. It just wasn't me. I was just like, nah.
For sure.
So yeah, if it wasn't who I joined, it wouldn't have been anything. I didn't need that. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things. But I've seen the other side of it, and God bless them.
God bless them, people.
Yeah, straight up.
So my scene is the homecoming game coordination and parade again. I don't think I've ever been to our parade. So there's that.
I was in one once.
Oh, yeah. Nope, not me. So there's that. Again, just the constant back and forth between the fellas who was dapping them and the gammas and their never-ending beef. I'm curious to why it was just them and not any of the other organizations that they for real had smoke with. Again, speaking to Dap and Julian's beef, I think that's a lot of it. Shout out to the parade, but the locker room is probably it is a scene that is very important to me and one of my favorites in this movie. We have the legend Ossie Davis, who is the football coach. And while we're not to quote 2 quotes, he says, you must love that which one labors for, and one must labor for that which one loves. I said that in my pursuit of my organization because of this movie.
That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. I love that.
So
I love that.
when I tell y'all I love this shit, I love this movie. And that line, not just in pursuit of the organizations, that has stuck with me, because if you love something, you gonna work for it. If you work for it, you love it. You gotta love it. You find your way. That is with everything. That is with your job. That is in continuing school, your education. That is in your church, in your life, your family, your relationships, interpersonal and otherwise with people. I love you, so I am going to work with and for you to make sure that the desired goal is met. So yeah, that's my favorite.
I love that, Rachel. Listen, tell people all the time that you can have results or excuses. You can't have both.
All right.
One of the two. One of the two, man. So my next scene, if you have anything before this, is actually after Dap gets called in the president's office and he's back in his dorm room with his boys.
Go ahead.
So Dap wants to do something big on campus, like put notice out there. And his boys are sitting there like, listen, man, like, they not playing with you, bro. Like, when they tell you they gonna expel you after 4 years in, they mean that. They're not joking. This is not games. I don't know if you know that, but, and I'll get to one of my favorite lines in the scene, but it's okay to get a regular job.
For sure.
First, there are a lot of first-generation college students, even now, right? But this is very common in this time, 80s, 90s, 2000s, a lot of first-generation college students. A lot of students who came from nothing. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of students who came to college with one bag, and that's it, and a dream. And that's kind of what it was. And you can't tell them that I need to throw it all away. Maybe not throw it all away, but I need to divert from what the plan is and what the goal is to join this activism crusade. As important as it is, what also important is breaking these generational curses and breaking some of the things that I have to do within my family. And okay, cool. You might want people to do it one way, but you can also respect the fact of where they're coming from. I think that Dap was so engulfed in his mission and helping people and helping Black people around the world, he lost sight of the fact that, listen, I get why y'all pushing back, and I understand why it's this way. Why we got to be Uncle Tom's, bro? Why we got to be all that? Speaking of which, if y'all go back, Sambo was the villain, not Uncle Tom. But that's neither here nor there. But why we got to be all that? Why we got to be name called? Because we're not the same. And once again, another theme in the movie, we're not the same type of Black as you. And that's something we talk about. Rachel's famously, sometimes you ain't a nigga's nigga.
Come on.
And that's what it is. And it's a real thing. And I think that's a little bit different than this conversation. It's more so, don't blame me. I still love Black people. I still care for Black people, but don't knock me for not going as hard as you, because I have other priorities within my life. And that's a real thing. And kind of talked about this on another week in the books, Spike and myself. Shout out to Spike, man. By the time you hear this, his birthday would have passed. So shout out to him. But something about the whole, where's my train of thought going? Oh, there are times in life where you do have to go 100% towards whatever your cause is. And this, I kind of represents, this is 20 years or so, 25 years past the civil rights movement when this comes out. And there's even a moment where Dap was talking to one of the guys, not the president, but the other person in the office, and said, man, so what, you Martin Luther King? That was over 20 years ago. Well, the difference is they were really literally willing to put it all on the line. Like, think about the Montgomery bus boycott. Unfortunately, I can never see that happening because too many people, we've been granted too much now. Now our own personal interests come above the cause, right? And this shows, listen, that's exactly what I was bringing it up for another week in the books, because I'm like, we're at a point now to where that type of energy is required and needed. Like, people really got to be able to lay it on the line. And I understand we all have our own vested interests that we want to protect. But listen, it's a real thing. And unless you're really ready to like kind of fight and put it on that line, things are going to keep going the way they're going. That's, like I said, that's neither here nor there, but I thought it was very interesting. But I also love Bill Nunn's character, I can't think, Grady.
Mm-hmm.
Grady, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, man. That in life, there are times to be quiet, man, to shut the fuck up. This is one of them. Because that's a life lesson, bro. Sometimes it's just you got to shut the fuck up, bro.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get anywhere with your same mentality. So then, obviously, even after all that, even after that gets mad, kicks him out, your boys are still your boys. Hey, man, the revolutionaries still eat KFC
fried chicken.
Yeah, man.
That's one of my favorites, and I thought about this, Kieron, at the top of the episode when you were talking about divestment and apartheid, and we talked about the different world connection. And there was the episode where Kim had to give up her scholarship because it was supported by Orange Globe, who supported apartheid. And she did. And it's a show, but she did. And to your point, now you got to be willing to give up some things to be trying. You've got to try to find another way because it's gonna get sticky. Mm-hmm. It's gonna get tricky. The perilous times that we're about to embark on. Hey, shout out to
you gotta really look in your mirror and figure out what kind of person you want to be and what you can sleep with at night. You think of somebody like Colin Kaepernick who took a knee and got blackballed for it. Crazy. Because that's something that he felt strongly about. But it just shows you, man, it ain't comfortable, man. They want you to be one way. And that's just kind of what it is. So yeah, that whole thing, it gets real tricky, but you gotta stay together, stay strong, because like you said, Rachel, it's crazy time. I'm assuming your next scene will be the KFC scene since we're going right into it.
For sure. Shout out to the Samuel L. Jackson. But again, we talked about conflict between the college students and the locals. Obviously, this is 1988. 87. So it ain't new. It's not a new conflict. It's not a new storyline plot that we see. It is very real because you have these people, these students who are coming to college to get an education, but there is a level of classism because even you could be from the trenches wherever you at, but because you're in college, something about, not all, but there is something about that gives you the attitude that you are better than the locals. Now, are they out in shower caps in windbreakers?
Sometimes. Where's Monique when you need her?
Where's Monique? Get your ass in the house of this bullshit. But I just love that because it just sort of highlighted a conflict between the two. And again, I like when they got outside. Shout out to Kadeem Hardison, who was just silently a killer in this movie. His one-liners and quips. But you know, you're not niggas. We don't think we're better than you. But I just appreciated the afterthought of the car ride back. Damn, are we like them people that we say that we don't fuck with? Because in the lowest of keys, a little bit. It's prevalent, even if you don't want to believe it. There was an element of, I don't want to say classism again, but that an arrogance that you exude, unfortunately, and everybody ain't gonna go for that, as you can see.
Listen,
you said the only time you got a gun pulled on you when he he said, "I'd shoot y'all little college asses" or whatever he said. But that's very real.
They serious, man. And going to your point about the car ride back, are we really like them? I've referenced this line multiple times. Nas on the song "Triple Beam Dreams" would have been Ivy League if America played fair. I look at so many brilliant minds and voices that are in the hood, ghettos of America, unfortunate situations where they just don't have the resources or even the understanding of what something like school could be.
Yeah.
And I can understand the resentment of knowing that I never had the same opportunity. I never saw my way going to this. There was never a pathway for it.
Yeah.
Right. Where some people are just like, of course, that's natural. Like I knew at 10 years old I was going to go to college. And other people like, man, I didn't even know if I was going to graduate high school.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're not smart. It just means that you have a different life circumstance. As you mentioned, Samuel L. Jackson character, man. How come y'all college motherfuckers think y'all running things? Like can't find jobs because of you. We ain't dirt because we ain't go to school. And then him saying, like, I'll shoot y'all little, I'll bust a cap in y'all little young ass. Listen. Two quick things that I want to mention. There was a time when there was a Toledo person, and I don't even remember what my issue was with this dude. I really can't remember, and that's once again that shows you how petty things are in life. That really ain't that deep. Can't remember what the issue was, but I definitely remember him coming to see me at work, not see me personally, but him coming in my job because he had a relationship with my supervisor at the time. And I remember him buying something, and I remember specifically me like pretty much throwing his change at him. Yeah, like real out of character for me, right? That's not me. But whatever he did, it didn't sit well with me. And I can't remember what it was. I wish I could. But I wasn't just being petty. He did something minor, I'm sure. I overreacted. That was unnecessary because I know how I am. If somebody threw my change at me, like I'm flipping the store up right now.
Yeah.
And I remember him giving me a look in real time, and I'm looking right back at him like, yeah, nigga, that's what it is. And I never forget going to, there was a club on Monroe, downtown, Blueprint. Never forget being in Blueprint, seeing this nigga inside. That nigga saw me, tapped his nigga like, and did one of them points. I'm like, oh shit.
Get up out of there.
Listen, it's time to get the fuck up out of here, nigga. I'm leaving. That means they leaving. When I tell you, this nigga came after me and had that thing on some real serious shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. And I learned, like, you know what?
You got it.
You got it. You got it. But the second part I'll say is this. I want to be careful because I don't want to say there were all right. So there were people at the University of Toledo from a specific Midwest city that's not in Ohio. Okay, large group of people from this one city. All right, and they had made a reputation. And Rachel, you were gone probably at this time, right? You were probably gone at this time. Yes, you were definitely going at this time. And they had kind of made a reputation for not starting things per se, but definitely ending them. Like they went through a lot of wild out, fuck niggas up, laugh about it. Shout out to Free.
Not in Ohio?
Not in Ohio, but from another Midwest city, larger Midwest city.
Okay.
And they kind of were all in Toledo at the same time. Okay, all went to school, whatever. They were known. Like, this is past you, whatever. I'm very close to a couple of them.
Okay.
Right? So I know this personally firsthand. We were at a wedding 2 years back. One of these people got married. And I'm at the wedding. I'm down in Texas at this wedding. And you know how black weddings are, man. You all kick it. You go to reception. After reception, you go back to the hotel. It's a party in the parking lot, man. We rolling up. We doing all types of stuff, man. Just kind of reminiscing. And war stories started being told about times at the University of Toledo. This group of athletes, this group of Greeks, ran through them all. When them niggas stopped and said the only time we ever had a problem was when we got into it with them Toledo niggas. And when I tell you there's a laundry list of, for lack of better terms, there's a laundry list of victims. They said, nigga, we went head up with these Toledo niggas. Never again. Never again.
Alone.
These niggas, hey, they were saying it, and these is real niggas saying it dead ass, like these niggas are serious.
Yeah.
Once again, we're not familiar with your game. I can't say it enough. If you in Toledo, do not fuck with them locals, man. Play your part as an out of towner and keep your shit pushing. I don't care what you think they are. Be respectful. They from the mud for real.
Nobody. It's not caught the mud for no reason.
Listen, it wasn't even. It ain't like I threw a quarter in that man's face. Now, granted, I get it. I can understand like a little, hey man, let me holler at you, or you got me fucked up. That was completely warranted. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting hey, you got me fucked up. Nah, I'm gonna show you. And damn it, if I ain't learned that, if I ain't never listen. Sometimes life is the best teacher. I ain't never disrespect nobody like that ever again. That nigga said, right now, nigga, I promise you, nigga, if that's how you want to do it, you funny, I'm hilarious, my nigga. What's up? And we had to, and it's funny because the old supervisor, she ended up squashing it because she was cool with both of us. She was like, because she heard about it, obviously, and it became a little big deal and all this other shit. But yeah, man, it was a funny thing. Anyway.
And a nigga knew where you work. Crazy.
Yeah, I ain't give a fuck. That's one of the few times in my life where I backpedaled, but I did not feel bad about it because that nigga was dead ass. And I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't knowing your level. You on a whole another level. I thought we were still at this level. I ain't know we elevated. You got it, big dog.
I didn't know.
I didn't know, man. I say all that to say this scene hit home when I remember stuff like that because you are a visitor in someone else's city. Like Dede said, I gotta live here. You don't. And there's a lot of other things that you got to deal with. So shout out to Toledo, man. Like I said, shout out to the North Side niggas.
Toledo hat.
That's exactly why I wore it, man. Respect, nigga. Respect. Always. I wore this hat on purpose for a reason. Nigga, I'm not playing with it, man. I'm not playing with it. But nah, shout out to them.
Shout out. My next scene. Yeah. Oh, it might be on you because mine was the KFC.
Step show,
same.
Step show. Hey, first of all, shout out to the Good Bros. One of the very few movies where it was allowed for our letters to be shown. I don't know if people remember this. I don't even know if there's video footage of this on YouTube anywhere. If anybody remembers, back when Stomp the Yard came out, right? Back when the trailer that was in the movie theaters, not the commercials, but when you first saw a trailer in the movie theater, I remember seeing that for Stomp the Yard. And there's a scene in the library or cafeteria where there's bruh stepping. And they originally had the A5A letters. And something happened between the trailer and the release of the movies where A5A was like, nah, Chop City. And it was all blacked out or turned into another fraternity, but it was black and gold. And they was throwing, like, it was definitely alphas. I say all that to say this is one of the few movies and definitely the first movie I saw with the letters being featured so prominently. They were also at the homecoming game, as you can see. But going to your point earlier, Rachel, that fight in the scene, that was built from the tension of Spike Lee putting them at different accommodations. It boiled over. Spike Lee just told them to keep rolling. That was not in the script. That was not supposed to happen. It just kind of went to that point where I'm sick of you. Like, we've been doing this for almost 2 months. Like, I'm sick of you. You sick of me. Like, what's up? Like, what's up? And Spike was like, shit, just keep capturing this. Keep going. Keep rolling. And that's the scene that you end up getting. Now, I will say this. As iconic and legendary as Daddy Longstroke is, as a Greek,
not going.
They're not getting that shit off.
They're not getting that shit off.
They're not getting that shit off. But you know what it also makes me think of? It makes me think of people. I remember a time. Once again, I remember a time before I was Greek, and there was a party. No. I remember a time. And this goes back to the Greek versus non-Greek conversation. Remember a time before I was Greek, and there was a party. There's some football players.
I knew you was gonna say the football players.
And they ain't give a fuck about none of that Greek shit.
Yeah.
Once again, all hell breaks loose. It reminds me of my brother Goody, who played football down at the University of Cincinnati and wasn't just on the team, was an actual like player and like, star of the team. And him telling me stories like, hey, bro, we don't give a fuck about none of that. Like, I'm walking like, bro, we cheer for these chicks, man. We here for these women, man. I'm walking through that line. I don't care. I say, good, man. Stop doing that shit, bro. Stop doing it. Like, nah, bro. I'm just saying, y'all trying to fuck up the party and all that shit, bro. We just trying to what they gonna do. I'm like, some people do not care. They do not care, and they run in numbers. And if they got to get busy, they get busy, man. So stuff like that. There's only a couple of people that I could see pulling that off and nobody saying nothing. It has to be like a football team type of thing. But to regular Greeks, I'm not going to use the name that Greeks call people who aren't Greek. But that is something where ain't no way I can see that happening. Ain't no way.
Not at all. I think I said it at the top of the episode, but
I don't think you did. I would have caught it because I tried. I tried my hardest. I reminded myself not to say it.
Yeah, when I was telling homegirl about the description of the movie, I definitely said it. But bless that. But I got so, not just to pause for a quick second, I just got so tickled thinking about going to see Stomp the Yard, and one of my line sisters took a paddle to Stomp the Yard. So lame. So annoying.
But y'all was, but that was, but y'all were neo. So
we were fresh off.
Yeah, y'all were neos when that movie dropped. I give it a pass.
I will give you one guess who you think did that.
I'm not saying her name, but I know exactly who it was.
Just give me a number.
3.
Nope. Not
4.
even. Nope.
Don't tell me it was 2.
Nope.
1.
Nope.
7.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
You see, that's the last person I named.
Why do you have that?
Yo, that is the last person I would have thought.
So stupid. So stupid. Shout out
That's
to her.
wild.
My girl.
Did y'all wear letters?
Yes. I think everybody did.
If you had letters, I'm sure you wore them.
If you had letters, you wore them to Stomp the Yard.
I ain't mad at that, man. Yeah, y'all was fresh. So y'all was
fresh off the stands.
Yeah, man. Shout out to y'all. Hey, that's wild.
Silly as fuck.
They was probably looking at her like, "What the fuck is you doing with that?"
Put it in a duffel bag.
Ready for action, man. I used to.
Stupid.
Never mind. Let me stop.
So dumb. My next scene is Dap in front of Rachel's dorm because niggas always got to apologize. Would I call it a come see about me? No, this is come right your wrongs.
It's definitely come right your wrongs, but my man definitely had to pay for it.
For sure. And that's just something like, just because all the cameos, Cassie Davis, AJ Johnson, I love embarrassing niggas, so right up my alley.
Very small scene, very, very, very small scene. The doing the butt scene.
Yay.
Obviously, I love how Tisha Campbell, who's in this movie, I love the play on it when Martin, there's an episode of Martin, she gives Martin a sculptured butt, and they in there doing the butt. Also, I don't think I've ever gone to a party like that. And only thing I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder what that room smells like.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. I wonder what that room smells like. Because these niggas in a draws for real.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like it made me think of House Party 2, Pajama Jammy Jam, but they were really in robes and draws, and that's what it was. I couldn't even imagine going to a party like that right now. Shout out to them, man. What's your next scene? I got one more scene, really.
I got the last 30 minutes.
Yeah. So I've got it starting with, you can start with the Gamites crossing.
Yeah.
But really what I want to start discussing is Half Pint and Jane.
For sure. For sure.
Go ahead, Rachel.
So I guess I'll start with the Half Pints crossing, or with the Gamites crossing. Shout out to that. Shout out to everybody who's crossed some sands with help, or sans help. Bless all of that. For all the jokes.
And talking about, I love he must have forgot I helped his ass last year. Because it's always the niggas acting the toughest.
That's it. Doing the most. Doing the most.
Yeah, you start hearing stories and they're like, oh, okay.
That's why you act like that. Like,
that checks out.
But shout out to that. For all the jokes and a lot of the inside information that we're saying, I do have a tremendous soft spot for people crossing at no matter what stage, undergrad or grad. Like,
nothing like it.
It's nothing like that feeling. It's nothing like it. So shout out to everybody who has experienced that, the people who still desire to experience that. It's a beautiful thing. So shout out to that. We talked a little bit about the purpose of the auxiliary groups and not really knowing what they were for. I said that this was sort of my first intro to that because I didn't know what angels and diamonds and sweethearts and all of that shit was. I had never heard of that really
Pearls.
until I saw this movie, Pearls. I had never heard of that. Okay.
Oh shit.
Did you see my story?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I had never heard of that shit before. So this was really my introduction to that. And my thought, until I got to know some of the people on campus that I do love, to this day, I thought that that's what they were there for. The Jane Toussaint of it all. Hey. I pay for parties, keep a bed warm, or be available for the pleasures of the man. That's what I thought. I know that that's not the case. I know that now the history, wives and girlfriends, not slides, wives and girlfriends of these men, that's where it came from, especially when you think like back in the day, college, the traditional college student was not kind of what it was at the top of what we think of it, especially in Black historical society. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, Dean Big Brother Almighty, Julian, keeps his promise of not pledging any virgins and coerces Jane to giving of herself to Half Pint. That's crazy as fuck.
Yeah.
And to be so young and so down for the cause and unaware of sort of who you are as a person, as a woman, an individual, not as a gamma ray, not as Julian's girl, to even think that that is something that's acceptable to share your person with this literal Half Pint, this fucking lame ass Neo, for the sake of these colors that you're not even really a part of.
Yeah.
Is wild. And I'm not talking to the people that I know and love, but I know that there are people, I have heard that there are people in our age demographic who have succumbed to similar experiences for the sake of this, for the sake of the affection of the Dean Big Brother Almighties of their particular school and organization. And that is so crazy to me. But we talking a hyperbole, but the movie is not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tricky.
Yeah, extremely tricky. It is, the one word to describe it is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know. And I've mentioned this before. That's a tricky age to be. Because you feel like you know everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And you have no idea about anything. Like, you really start to figure a lot of this stuff out. And when it comes to emotions, sometimes because you can do a physical act doesn't mean that you're emotionally ready to do that.
For sure.
And I think back a lot to the age when I started being sexually active, and I like, as right now as a grown ass man, I just like kind of shudder, like, what the fuck, bro? Like, you had no You have no idea about the emotional toll that takes. And I thought about this specifically in the scene when Jane and Half Pint are in the room, and Half Pint says, "You don't have to do this." And she says, "Shut up and take your clothes off," because she's down. And it's easy to look at someone like that and say, "Oh, groupie," or whatever you want to, but in her mind, she's doing what's right, and she's doing something to profess her love and affection. And maybe she doesn't see how actually fucked up it is. And it makes me think, and it kind of makes my heart break for all of because I think we all have them. A lot of us have scars from college that we're just now being able to heal from and really cope with. And scars that you don't think about at the time, and it takes some time to really reflect and be like, damn, that was kind of fucked up. That really did a number on me. And it's one thing to look at it, like I said, for what it is, but it's easy to take you can take the easy route and say she should have known better, but nah, you really don't. The same way Half Pint, as lame as he is, didn't have it in him to be like, you know what, this ain't right.
Yeah.
Because of, like I said, all of the structures that are around you and all of the things telling you need to be like this, like that. We ain't pledging no virgins, and we ain't doing this. Get money, fuck bitches. All these sayings that are around you, and you feel like that's what life is about. And you soon realize that it's not. And like I said, the worst part is if Jane is a real character, and unfortunately Jane is a real character somewhere,
for sure,
all throughout this country, there are a lot of things that Jane went through in college just to find out it was all a lie, and just the hurt of it, and just the trust issues that come from it, and everything else. And not to mention, we didn't even discuss the gaslighting.
For sure.
After the fact, which is disgusting.
Crazy. And remember, he fully did that, told Jane to do that with the intent to pass her off to the next one because he was sick of her.
She too young. She too young. Knowing that, but instead of being real, use that as, oh, this is the final test and you failed it. And now having that woman, not only did you play her, but you blaming her. You're making her feel like she's guilty for that, and she lost you because she failed some tests when this was your plan the entire time. That's just nasty, disgusting work, man. And the kind of scars that it takes to kind of overcome that, and just that one moment, just how much that's affected someone like Jane. I just think that's nasty and it's sick. And unfortunately, it's happened plenty of times. It's happened plenty of times, man. And even a nigga like Half Pint and all his loser line brothers outside the door waiting on him and shit like that. Like, y'all some lames, bro. You just crossed the night. Like, why are y'all looking at Half Pint like this? I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of, it's just a sad reality that you know exists. And it's like, damn, man, you just really wish you can go back and help that girl because you ain't got to do this.
For sure.
Yeah, you ain't got to do this, man. And then obviously, go ahead.
No, I just got weak at something in my randoms, but we'll finish this.
I bet. And then obviously Dap and Half Pint, Half Pint showing up at Dap's door, and Dap pretty much hemming that nigga up. Like, we ain't cousins no more. Like, what the fuck you do? Like, what you want? I knew you was gonna do that because it was his fear. Like, now you turn into one of these niggas, and you ain't really like that. That was one of my biggest things. I'll never forget being like by the time you reach junior year, senior year, and you've been around campus enough to know people before they got letters, and then there's always that batch of incoming freshmen, and then they look at certain people a certain way, and you just kind of had that look like, man, that nigga ain't really like that. Like, I knew him before this. Like, and it just makes you feel the way when you keep yourself solid and you see other people using that type of stuff and having that type of behavior as a Half Pint. Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, that's one of the moments where hopefully Jane got a group of Toledo niggas on call.
Bruh.
To come up there and take care of business, man, because Julian played her, man. He did her foul. But obviously the wake up symbolism. And it's funny because he ended School Daze with Wake Up. He started Do the Right Thing with Wake Up. Kind of wake up, man. Like, really, like, what are we really talking about? What are we really discussing? Let's make sure we look at everything from the same page.
For sure. Shout out to that. Shout out to School Daze.
No doubt. Shout out to School Daze.
I'm weak for a couple reasons.
Yeah.
One, remember when I almost caught them Toledo niggas on?
Oh, I would never forget that. What are you talking about? I will never forget that. That might be like one of the. If somebody asked me like, "What are your definitive Rachel moments?" That's top 3, if not top 2. 1,000%. 1,000%. Thank God that did not happen.
I was gonna do it though.
I know, and it would have been bad.
It would have.
It would have been bad, and I can't even be mad at you.
Deal with them niggas.
I can't even be mad at you. Sometimes some shit should happen, and you gotta step in anyway. But don't.
Yeah.
Don't do
Shout out to everybody who talked me off.
Nah, that took a while. That was probably that might have been the. That's like, what's the Sesame Street niggas? Elmo and Rocky, or Rocco or whatever. Yeah, Rocco. Man. Nah, that's one of them. That was one of them long-standing beefs. Like I ain't never think there was ever gonna be a truce. I ain't never think that shit was getting pieced up. I know, but I never thought that I'd see that day. I thought that shit was going forever. Like, cause it was definitely fuck you forever energy for quite some time.
Because then after the incident, I found out that he told somebody that we had sex. No, the fuck we did not.
Yeah, man. I remember that. That was real times, man. I'm glad it never got. Shout out to Growth, man. That was real ugly.
It was.
Niggas. I told y'all all episode about these Toledo niggas, man. If they would have showed up, it would have been
bad. And would have been okay, given my family connection. It wouldn't have been no trouble for them people. But anywho, the other thing that I low-key got weak at, we didn't really talk about it in scenes. But during the I believe it is the coronation scene where we see, Rachel and Dap having sex, and then Jane and Julian. And I just was like, ain't nobody licking no S-curl scalp. But then I know a brand hate to see me coming. Say that.
Art imitates life. Art imitates life, man. I ain't even going there with you, Rachel, man. I'm not fucking with you. I'm not fucking with you, man. You know what? I'm not even going there. Best quotes.
Goddamn. Quotes. Okay. What y'all need? Some cat food or something? God damn it. That's right. God damn it. I say that all the time. It takes a real man to be a gamma man, and only gamma man is a real man. You ain't seen no parts of the pussy. Obviously, pass the pussy. That whole song. Mm-hmm. If you know, you know. I'll be a good gamma man. You'll see. One loves that which one labors for, and one must labor for that which one loves. Do revolutionaries eat Kentucky Fried Chicken? Is it true what they say about mission men? Ready for the world is popping shit. And who you calling a bitch? And you can watch. I am from Detroit, so you can watch Tootsie your ass back to Africa.
This movie classic, man. This movie classic. I don't care what anybody says.
What you got?
You pretty much said all of them. Like I said, you ain't seen no parts of the pussy. The one dude, the student government president. Look, I am sick of you niggers. Every day the same shit. And then the one gamma, one gamma looking like niggers. It reminded me of Mike Epps and Soul Man. Like, fuck the kids. Like, damn, for real? Like, you call it that nigga, man, he put the hard ER on there. Like, I'm sick of this shit. I already said the line about Dap and Life. There are times to be quiet, man, and shut the fuck up. This is one of them. And you mentioned Samuel earlier. Get the fuck out of here before I bust a cap in your young college ass. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. On top of everything you said, scene stealer.
Okay. In the lowest of keys, mine is Ossie Davis, but just for that whole locker room scene.
It's a very great choice. I'm going Bill Nunn as Grady.
Okay.
I think Grady. He added a certain element to as far as the people in the crew. Because Yeah, Dap had a very interesting crew and very realistic crew, and it was mixed in nicely. I think you need somebody like Grady, like a football player, somebody like got some social status, to where you can get a lot of the shit off that y'all was doing. You can get that off. And I just thought that Bill Nunn did a great job.
Pause. Again, we talk about crews. I don't remember the Poindexter nigga's name, but the Poindexter nigga. It took me back to our Wood conversation of how does
Best Man,
how does
my merch
fit? Because it's always a random nigga somehow mixed in the group. Okay.
It's funny because I'm not making this up, Rachel. I was thinking about that when we were when I was taking notes. I thought about that conversation we had. I'm like, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. And you see what type of time he was on. They had him paying for the KFC. I'm gonna give you the $30 back next week. Like, it wasn't like, no, you only around for this, but they also knew, we can get this over on you. So,
for sure.
So yeah, Bill Nunn as Grady was my scene stealer. Things that bother you?
I really ain't had nothing. It's the 80s.
There's some Greek things that bother me a little bit, but it's Greek things and it ain't for everybody, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm not a fan of the score. It makes sense because it's a musical. I think it was pretty much. I'm pretty much positive it was intentional, but there is a lot of it. It felt a little cartoonish. It felt a little Tom and Jerry-ish at times.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it kind of maybe throw you off of the actual tone and message of this film. But it's not a big thing. It is what it is. Any actors from The Wire? No. We talked about Come See About Me. Nah, we ain't counting Daps. Fuck up. Wouldn't let that happen to me.
I'm not fucking this Neo, and I'm not looking at Jerry Curl.
Part. The scalp.
A scalp is a body?
Sweaty too.
That's one thing.
But looking down the part, you say you ain't doing the part, huh? That's too much.
Doing it. I don't want that grease on my tongue. Hello.
You gotta going too far with the comedy. I'm not leaving KFC, at least without my chicken.
Oh, come on, get a box.
Take a box.
We just had to. We owe this nigga $30 already. We got to eat.
I'm not leaving that. Listen, I'm getting it to go to container, and I'm taking that with me.
That's it.
Especially as a college student.
Come on.
100%, no questions asked. So that definitely bothered or wouldn't let that happen to me. I'm never waiting outside a room when my man's just getting his rocks off. Like, that'll never happen to me.
It wasn't nowhere for y'all to go.
Nowhere for y'all to go on your crossing night. Y'all lame, like big lame. And this ain't really a wouldn't let that happen to me because you can't help it. But when I tell you, I might still be beating half pint ass for the way he was banging on that nigga door in the middle of the night. There's just a certain disrespect that comes with banging and kicking on somebody's door. The way that nigga Grady answered the door, like, hey man, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what time it is, bro? Like, stop, bro. Stop playing with me. Like, that shit's so irritating because nothing could be this urgent ever. Nothing could ever be this urgent. So yeah. Trivia. The only trivia really, we mentioned most of it throughout the episode, but the only other thing, G5G, Gamma Phi Gamma, is a mixture of Alpha Phi Alpha and Omega Psi Phi.
Omega.
We got the dog aspect from Omega Psi Phi, and then of course during the parade you have the Egyptian, like the pyramid, the Sphinx, obviously big A Phi, and obviously if you see their shield, it does resemble that of Omega Psi Phi in a sense. So it's supposed to be a mixture of both of them. Whatever they said, it not me.
Spike drop online from Pledging Alpha. Is it a rumor?
It wouldn't shock me. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Not saying if it's true. Allegedly. Not sure. Yeah, not sure. Don't get a spike. All right, Rachel. We get to the end of the episode.
Yes, 2 hours. Thank y'all.
Hey, man, shout out to y'all, man. Yeah, to our flashbacks, our trips down memory lane. But we get to the part of the episode where we get to rate the film. The average viewer rates this film, and it is going to be low to you, Rachel. Just want to let you know, prepare you.
I'm prepared.
Average viewer rates this film a 6.1 out of 10.
I thought you was gonna say 6.2. Okay.
Yep, 6.1 out of 10. Obviously, we know it's too low. So is it too high or just right?
It's too low. And if I do my best to take nostalgia out, $7.4.
I was going to go 7.2.
Mm-hmm.
7.2, man. I think it's an incredible message. Once again, it's not for everyone. And it's not necessarily an entertaining movie. It's not a Friday night, let me find something to watch type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is too long. They can shave 10 to 15 minutes off somewhere.
For sure.
But it is, and it's kind of fragmented, but incredible message, incredible conversation. Can still have these conversations. As I said earlier, we both mentioned this should be taught somewhere. This should be in someone's curriculum. And it holds up, man. All these years later, like I said, rating wise, it might not be the highest, but it is something that should be. I think when you talk to people about their favorite Spike Lee movies, easily top 7,
for sure,
if not higher, top 5, top 4, whatever the case may be. You giving it a rose, a garden, or a rose, a bouquet, or the whole damn garden?
I'm giving School Daze the garden.
Yeah, you gotta give it the garden.
School Daze.
It's the acting alone. All right, just take away the message of it. Just if you want to look at it from a acting perspective, bodied it.
For sure.
Look at what a lot of these people went on to go do. Just stands the test of time. It's just one of those movies. It's one of those movies, man. So that's pretty much it, Rachel. You got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope. Thank y'all for riding. If you're still here, we're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. So we greatly appreciate y'all.
Hey, you know what? It's perfect because we released this on a Wednesday right before Thanksgiving. Perfect for those traveling back home. If you need something in the airport, need something on your drive, we want to make sure we got y'all. Shout out to we got y'all, man. Coming back really soon for y'all. And yeah, we'll be back next week with a new episode. We're getting into December. We'll have some holiday themed stuff. We'll figure it out. We'll go from there. So as always, it's a pleasure, Rachel. It was great going back down memory lane, thinking of ourselves when we were 18, 19, 20 years old. Back in the day when I was young. Not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. Shout out to Toledo, man. Shout out to the North Side. You know what I mean? Straight up.
But shout out to you too.
Hey, man. Be respectful.
Be respectful.
If you don't learn nothing else, be respectful, man. You'll be in a situation you ain't never think you was gonna be in.
That's it. And they don't give a fuck.
So don't, college nigga.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Y'all be cool. We appreciate y'all. Till next time. Y'all be cool. How y'all be cool.
Farewell me.
Bye. Peace. We out.